Hello, dear students. Welcome once again to this class on Introduction to Art and Literary Aesthetics. In today's session, we'll discuss stream of consciousness technique. We have one novel to study, that is Waves by Virginia Woolf. So before going into the novel, I want you to go through this class on stream of consciousness method. The term stream of consciousness originated in the 19th century when psychologists coined the term to describe the constant flow of subjective thoughts, feelings, memories, and observations that all people experience. In the early 20th century, however, literary critics began to use stream of consciousness, this phrase, to describe a narrative technique pioneered by writers like Dorothy Richardson, Marcel Proust, James Joyce, and Virginia Woolf. Many of these writers were interested in psychology, and the psychological novel in which these writers describe the characters' thoughts, ideas, and internal development as they do describing the action of the plot. The stream of consciousness is a style or a technique of writing that tries to capture the natural flow of a character's extended thought process, often by incorporating sensory impressions, incomplete ideas, unusual syntax, and rough grammar. First, assumes that the human mind is a constant stream of thoughts, associations, memories, reactions, and reflections, and attempts to mimic this stream of the inner workings of human minds, which is not linear, which is associated with different kinds of images, memories, reactions, and reflections. The stream of consciousness technique uses sensory details, and perceptions are jumbled with conscious and unconscious thoughts. No, it's not a linear narrative like a conventional novel. It makes use of unusual syntax and grammar, associative leaves, repetition, and plot structure in order to depict conscious and half conscious thoughts, feelings, memories, associations, and reactions. The thought process is not fully formed, or they change course in the middle and become run. It's not that we think in a very linear way, right? We think about our childhood, some happy incident, but all of a sudden we'll come to the future, or we'll be apprehensive of our future, and soon we'll be thinking about something that happened, some traumatic event. So it's not a linear process. So likewise, the sentences syntax used is also different. The writers use run-on sentences. One thought is interrupted by another thought. So the grammar and syntax can be used to replicate this process in ways that aren't grammatically or syntactically correct, but nonetheless feel accurate. It's an accurate depiction of our thought process. It creates the effect of a chain of reasoning based on association, and the thought process can be sloppy, disorienting, random. It's not something linear, not something in a chronological order. Did you understand that? So, like thought process, the language used, the way it is narrated, seems confusing, chaotic, and disjointed. But nonetheless, the details are specifically selected so that, in order to foreground the character's psychological associations, that determine the order of the ideas and the details narrated. What is and isn't revealed is important. This stream of consciousness also make use of these associative thought, where the writers there is this transition between ideas using loose connections that are often based on a character's personal experiences and memories. The idea is that this technique helps writers convey the experience of human thought more accurately than uh, they could by using a series of ideas connected with clear and logical transitions, because our thought process, it's not logically connected, it's not clear. So such a narrative is not possible. Associative thought can seem random as it leaps from one thing to the next with the help of only ambiguous or seemingly non existent connections, even as it can also feel similar to the actual random leaps that are a part of people's everyday thoughts. And that is exactly depicted by resorting to this technique of stream of consciousness method. For example, characters' thoughts are often presented to the reader in response to sensory impressions. Fragmented observations describing what the character sees, hears, smells, feels, tastes, and so on. The elements of stream of consciousness include a subjective associative perception, long passages of meditation, self reflection, observation, sentence fragments, run on sentences, several compound and complex sentences. They heavily rely on imagery and sensory details. Repetition is a very important thing, because like memory, the thought process, the writers use repetition to indicate that the character keeps coming back to or is fixating on something. A certain thought or sensory impression is repetitive in nature. Repeated words and phrases can act as a signpost pointing the readers towards a significant characteristic feature of that character, and also to the themes and the motives of the novel. For example, if a character's mind is constantly returning to the scent of a woman's perfume, the reader might conclude that the character is fascinated by or attracted to that woman. Do you get it? And coming to the plot structure of such novels of a stream of consciousness technique, it incorporates elements like excuse me, multiple unreliable narrators or a non-linear plot structure. Some writers shift rapidly between the perspectives of different characters. The novel that we have to learn, that is Waves, in that also we find the perspectives of 6 different characters, allowing readers to experience the stream of consciousness of multiple people. Now, another example is Sometimes a Great Notion by Ken Kesey, that alternates between the thoughts, emotions, and impressions of several characters, including a pet dog, using italics and different styles of punctuation to indicate which character is thinking each word, phrase, or sentence. Some writers may also choose to arrange events out of chronological order or to give readers details about the past through a character's memories. For example, Sound and Fury by William Faulkner, which conveys many important events and details through memories that arise as part of his different characters' stream of consciousness. Coming to this technique, it's actually different from interior monologue. Interior monologue, unlike in stream of consciousness, in interior monologues, the character's thoughts are often presented using traditional grammar and syntax. But stream of consciousness is, it doesn't actually use this linear narrative pattern. This is an example from Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. We can see that punctuation is there is no correct punctuation. Sentences are not complete. There are phrases, broken sentences. Looking at the flowers, at the trees with the smoke winding off them, and the rooks rising, falling, standing, and looking until Peter Walsh said, musing among the vegetables, "Was that it? I prefer men to cauliflowers. Was that it?" He must have said it at breakfast one morning when she had gone out on the terrace, Peter Walsh. He would be back from India one of these days. So, this is an extract from Virginia Woolf's novel, The Garden Party by Catherine Mansfield. Again, we find another very interesting example where the narrative is non-linear. It's all the fault, she decided, as a tall fellow drew something on the back of an envelope, something that was to be looked up or left to hang of these absurd class distinctions. Well, for her part, she didn't feel them. Not a bit, not an atom. And now there came the chock of wooden hammers. Someone whistled. Someone sang out, "Are you right there? Mattie, Mattie," the friendliness of it. Just to prove how happy she was, just to show the tall fellow how at home she felt, Laura took a big bite. So, these are examples from novels that use stream of consciousness technique. The writers, they use this stream of consciousness to a technique to bring forth the thoughts and ideas of the characters. The writers use this not only to show what a character is thinking, but to actually replicate the experience of thinking. You know, it's the experience of thinking which is being shown to the readers, which allows the reader to enter the mind and world of the character more fully. Many people find stream of consciousness writing very difficult to read, and indeed it does require readers to think in different ways. But this is actually one reason why many writers choose this technique. So please go through this stream of consciousness technique. We have this modern psychological novels resorting to this technique of stream of consciousness method. So please point out the main features of a novel written in this particular method. And then we'll look into the novel Waves by Virginia Woolf. Thank you.